Before getting into this topic, I just want to make something very clear. I am okay with Adepts being in the Flawless chest, exclusive to the Flawless chest. I'm for even armor, like exclusive armor effects, cosmetics, whatever, weapons that are only acquired in the Flawless loot pool. I'm fine with this because you want to ensure that there's a reason to go Flawless and have that feeling of, oh, I got something that was worth all this time and effort and whatever. I'm for it. I know that not everybody is, and that's understandable. I get that point of view as well because not everyone can go Flawless that easily and so on. But I understand why there needs to be a Flawless like loot pool that is interesting to allow people to be like, yeah, I want to actually try and get Flawless. Now, with that being said, this is not about really that entirely of my opinion about the Adepts. It's more lines talking about an issue that I feel like anyone, from people who go Flawless 50-something times to 100, to people especially who can't go Flawless that easily at all, this will really bother you. Now, sunsetting is a thing, okay? We now know this. We have it turned on now. We have things in our vault that we can dismantle. It won't be able to be used in endgame content anymore. Sad face, that's just the reality now. We Destiny 1 players are used to this. This is something that we've dealt with in the past, so nothing new there, but at the same time, with how Destiny 2 is implementing sunsetting is kind of a little bit, well, concerning. With sunsetting, in Destiny 1 at least, when there was a brand new expansion, we had a ton of loot implemented. Tons of raid weapons, to the point where there's like 10 raid weapons or so. Tons of Iron Banner weapons, brand new ones of every archetype as well. Vendors also had a big refresh that included Vanguard, the Crucible, and all three factions, Future War Cult, Monarchy, and Dead Orbit. Okay, with that being said, Beyon Light has 30 weapons. Now, I do understand that they could add weapons down the road, but for a staple new year, a brand new expansion, this makes things concerning. Now that it's implemented this way, one of the things that I said that would be a big issue is limiting what you can really use for endgame content when it comes to archetypes, weapon types. I mean, for crying out loud, there's not really that many bows. Like, do you really think Bungie's going to make tons and tons of weapons every year of every archetype, and not only that, of every burn? Imagine being ready to do a Grandmaster, and this season you need unstoppable scout rifles, and this one's got unstoppables, but there's also match game on, and there's tons of arc shields, and the only scout that you really have is a void scout rifle. Yeah, I can kind of see this being an issue over time. Who knows? This is why sunsetting, the way that it's implemented, when you implement something that's quote-unquote new, or old in this sense, because it was something in Destiny 1, you kind of have to make some changes to overall everything in the game to work with this feature. I mean, I talked about this before. It's like they could have implemented a way where you can change the burn of your weapons that are in the energy and heavy slot again, like in Destiny 2 Vanilla, just to make the burn problem not as much as a problem. When you squeeze something and limit the loot pool, you want to ensure that RNG and also the loot that we can decide from is also being squeezed. In Destiny 1, we kind of had this, and this is where the Adepts, the way that they're implemented, makes me very, very concerned. RNG. How many variations of weapons can you get for certain weapons? Or, like, archetypes or whatever? Tons, right? And sometimes it can take you a whole year to finally get a certain weapon. I'm looking at you, Spare Rations. People would farm for these things forever, and it would never really drop into their inventory. But some of these weapons make sense. Vendor weapons. You can keep turning in tokens and keep trying to get that weapon fairly quickly and fairly easy. Now, when we look into more weekly rotated kind of activities, raids, trials, grandmasters, stuff like that, now we come into the issue of less time or more time to get these weapons or armor or whatever. And also, it requires more effort, it's tougher, and so on. Well, sunsetting is a thing. We have these adepts that will be useful for a year, and then we will have to drop them and use something else for endgame content. Now, this is normally fine, but really, is it? With these variations? Now, hear me out. You go flawless. You finally go flawless, and in the loot pool of this weekend is the sniper rifle. You open the chest, and you are greeted with a roll that's absolute garbage. You open the loot chest for a summoner, and you get Underdog, an elemental capacitor, or something. Not that God roll, rampage, zen moment, or dynamic sway that you really wanted. What is Bungie telling you to do now? Well, go flawless again, forehead. There's no way you can change that weapon. Essentially, you might as well just dismantle it. It's not the role you want. There's many variations, in the RNG to adepts. They did not say that there were static roles. And even then, am I sitting here saying that once you go flawless for the sniper, boom, there you go, you're done? They had this with Rise of Iron. If you went flawless and you got the burning eye, you were done. You got the burning eye. That was it. Static roles were implemented in endgame content, I feel like, to ensure that you felt like the grind was worth your time, knowing that previous weapons are gone, like they can't be used in endgame content, and the current one will have the same problem, but in a year now. So you have a year to get that weapon, and once you do, boom, you're done, you can enjoy it. But there were still random roles and vendors, like tons of different variations of those weapons, because it was a lot easier to get those. Alright. This is going to everybody. If you were to look at the RNG you have, when it's good and when it's bad, and I mean when it's really bad, that one time that you kept trying to get a certain weapon, maybe 50, 100 times, and you didn't get it. Now implement that with flawless loot. You trying to get the weapon, and you're getting screwed over every single time. Going flawless. This is not winning or turning in tokens. This is going flawless. The loot is not getting the same treatment to what Destiny 1 had, where you squeeze the variables, the different variations of roles that you get, so then you have still RNG or something, but you are not feeling like you're being completely screwed by a slot machine that's not really valuing the time and effort that you're putting into whatever the activity that is, that does require a lot of effort and time. Here is my fix that I feel like this will be for adepts. Maybe they could do something where there's 5 separate roles. These are static roles. 5 variations. They could do this with raids as well, where there's 10 variations or 5 of each weapon. And these variations of these weapons have really cool roles that go hand to hand. I think Bungie should know by now which perks go very well with each other and focus those things. I mean, Fatebringer was a prime example where the weapon had the greatest roles that go hand to hand for a hand cannon. This is no difference with what the flawless loot should be, what the raid loot should be. We have a year, and I know that people will be like, well, I don't care, I'll go flawless 100 times or whatever, it's not a big deal. But these are weapons that we already have with new stat bonuses and so on. So they're interesting in that way, but they're not brand new. And even then, I really don't want to have me trying to go get the sniper and probably have to go flawless like 50 something times just to try and get the god roll that I want. And I'm not even talking about the perfect roll. I'm talking about just at least the snapshot and Vorpal. The other perks behind it and the masterwork, I really don't care. I mean, I do, but if RNG the way that it is, I really just don't care. I just want those last two perks the way that I want it. Sunsetting is going to be a nightmare now. Originally, I didn't have to fear RNG in certain activities because these will be weapons that we can use for years to come. That's why spare rations, when people were grinding for that for many, many months to years, people didn't care because they knew that they could bring it along forever. People would go back and do those activities that they haven't touched yet because they know these things will not be expired. But now we do understand that they will. This is going to be something that I feel like will be a problem, but I do understand that some people will be okay with this. Having RNG has a sense of like excitement when it actually is dropped the way that you want it when you do get it. But this is something that I feel like majority of people will find tedious over time or right away. I'm just saying. I feel like what Bungie should be doing is not doing the RNG that they've been doing when there was no sunsetting. Now that there's sunsetting, we need to change other things around the game to ensure that we don't have grind fatigue. Flawless loot should have 5 different variations of each weapon. With, on top of this, having a loot pool that's also got exclusive cosmetics to make the interest of, oh, I hope I get it RNG is there. Make some like emote sparrows and so on have very, very low chance. So it's double dipping on the excitement level. If you got the poopy sniper roll that you didn't like, at least you're also chancing on maybe getting some cool cosmetics that will also incentivize you to go and do that activity. Squeezing in the loot so then we don't feel like we're going to be, again, fatigued. We're not going to be emotionally just uninterested. We're feeling bothered by these activities and don't want to do them anymore. Same thing with raids. Implementing static rolls that isn't just one variation. The machine gun could have 10 variations to 5. Everything. Except for armor. Armor's completely random on the stats. These are things that I feel like should happen, but I don't know if everyone would agree with this. That's why I wanted to make this Chibi Hour about this, because I feel like this is a big issue. They did not say, hey, there's static rolls in the flawless loot. They said random rolls. And even if you can keep going flawless over and over, that does not excuse the RNG that should not be the way that it is for this activity. Because again, this is something that you will have not be useful in a year. So, and on top of this, I think I need to make clear, each weekend is a different weapon. So, one weekend it's a sniper, and then maybe a month past, like 2 months later, then it's the sniper again. You get my point? I would hope so. Because I feel like if you really think about it, it sounds pretty poopy. And I know the point of Destiny is not to get the god roll right off the bat. And it's not about having loot just handed to you. If you think going flawless is like getting loot handed to you, you and I, we need to sit and we got to talk, because going flawless is not a joke. It can be tough, and you can deal with some pretty garbage enemy teams that aren't really skillful, but they'll beat you somehow. Bastion users, as an example. I don't know. Listen, I just had terrible RNG with that summoner, just turning in tokens. I went through like 40 summoners to even come close to the role that I wanted. The sniper, forget about it. I've been trying to get the snapshot Vorpal forever, and nothing. I could care less about the rocket launcher, depending. I have not, because rocket launchers are just not in a good spot, but I would like to get a really good roll of that, just in case of down the road that rocket launchers get, 2 in the chamber at least, instead of 1. The fusion can be pretty decent as well. It's not top tier, but okay. And the shotgun, of course, is very important too. The scout, meh. But who knows? That might be something that gets better with a scout buff or something down the road in like PvE. I do not like RNG staying the way that it is when how our loot full on is changing. How light leveling to our loot is changing. That's where things need to change. The sunsetting essentially at this point is more beneficial to Bungie, it seems, on balancing and not having to deal with issues of something like Mountaintop still being used in trials, or people cakewalking through raids with Recluse or whatever else. But in this case, to benefit the players, I really want Bungie to kind of look at RNG and certain activities and change them. And on top of this, add weapons, please, to the vendors. My goodness. Gambit, Crucible, Vanguard should have a whole new loot pool. Just saying. But either way, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below on this topic. If you disagree, explain why. If you agree, still explain why. I want to know. So either way, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a Chibi-tastic day, night, evening, wherever you are. And thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next Chibi Hour. Goodbye.